Hey YouTube, it's been a long time since I posted and just been going through a lot of self-transformation, doing a lot of cleansing and working on myself, letting go of some limiting beliefs that I might still have been holding on to. Uh, but yeah, I feel drawn to start sharing again. And today I feel drawn to talk about alignment. So, what that means, right? There's a lot of different definitions there, but are you physically aligned? Is your spinal cord aligned? Are you aligned in your work and in your passion and what you're doing with your life, right? Are you aligned with your hobbies and getting out in nature and moving your body? I think it all plays a pivotal role into how we feel emotionally and how we feel ultimately in our life, right? If we're doing something that's out of alignment or that isn't in our true nature, and we're going against our true nature just to make a buck or just to do, just to get to that point, then essentially we're selling ourselves short. And the system that we grew up in thinking, the schooling system was developed by people that wanted factory workers, people to work on them on for big companies and big corporations. So they instill certain characteristics and certain ways of being and certain ways of thinking into us at a younger age, so that we are not creatively thinking for ourselves and starting to realize that we are really creators in this world. When you give your time up for another person to fulfill their dream, even if you're making good money in doing so, you're essentially selling a piece of your soul. You're selling out, right? And I think that we all do it to some extent. But once we realize it, we can start making choices that are going to be more naturally aligned with the decisions and the life, ultimately, the path that we want to go down, right? And so I know in my own life, you know, I've have certain goals and certain things that I'm reaching for. So I've been willing to sacrifice and put my head down and work for other people and do things in order to make that dream a reality, right? But it's taken longer than initially I would have anticipated. And what I'm realizing is that this whole time I could have been crafting the skills and crafting the ability to develop my own path rather than working, or simultaneously while working, until I can figure something out to do that is more aligned with the path that I'm on. Which for me, I'm really into spirituality and the health journey. I've been doing a lot of detoxing. I believe that health is a pretty simple equation, and that the way that we are eating and the emotions that we're feeling, as well as just our environment being filled with more toxins than ever, is what's leading us to have a lot of mental issues and not to be able to connect as well as we would to the divine, right? My metaphor, my equation is that we are all temples. Our bodies are temples for the living God, and the cleaner that we can get that temple, the more energetic output that we'll have, and the better, the more connected we're going to feel, the more aligned we're going to feel. So, I usually eat really clean, and I do a lot of herbal protocols, and I'm on a lot of protocols, but realizing how deep the levels of toxicity in this realm are, I've really been called to go through that path and through that purgatory way of just eliminating all the bad decisions that have accumulated in my life. So I've been fasting a lot. I've incorporated weekly fasting periods as well as extended. I've doing extended juice fast recently and going to continue with the hydration. The more that we hydrate our body, the more that waste that has been sitting there can start to move, and we can start to feel more alive and more connected again. So yeah, I'm going to start sharing more, and I feel that my path is to be some form of teacher in some aspect, right? And to share. We're all teachers. We're all learning and teaching through the actions that we decide to do, as well as the words that we decide to use and craft into our reality. So that is more in alignment with kind of where my head's at and what I want to start doing, even if I'm not getting paid to do that. Just to be able to share some of this information that I've accumulated, I feel would be beneficial for people that maybe haven't heard it, or it's just nice to get reinforcement when you're on the path, right? So I'm going to start sharing again. I feel called to start being more creative and not holding back and expressing myself, right? We're here to create. We're here as co-creators in this beautiful realm that we get to experience. And unfortunately, we forget that at times, right? And we forget that we're always connected, and that at any point we can drop into that divinity and into that realization of self and where we come from. We're all little sparks of the divine, you know? And if you can see that in yourself, then you can start to see that in other people. You can start to share that with the world. I think the emotions that we feel and what the energy we put out will be, you'll reap what you sow. And so it's good to put out good energy out there. So yeah, get out there, figure out what you're aligned with, right? What that means for you, because everyone's path is unique to them. So for some people, that looks different, right? And figuring that out for yourself, but knowing in your soul where your morals lay and what you want to do with your life and what you want to create for yourself is fundamental. If you're a captain of a ship and you don't know the destination you're heading to, you're just going to be dragged around by the currents at sea. But if you have a destination, you're going to eventually reach it, hopefully, or at least get closer than you would if you had no idea, right? So having that as a set point of what do you want out of life, right? For everyone's expectations are different. So figure out what you want, figure out what matters to you most, and then work towards that and work towards building the life that you want to, that you can share with others and be your best version of yourself. So that's what I got for today. Thanks for listening. Hope you have a good rest of your day.